Well, we got eyes on Joe Burrow. The dude is super cool, and he is having a great season. The problem is the clock is ticking for his squad to try to lock up a playoff spot. They're looking for their first win against a team with a winning record. It's a divisional opponent against the Steelers. Can they get it done? Meanwhile, Justin Herbert, like Joe, also playing some great football this season. Coming off a tough loss Monday night against the Ravens. A bounce back potentially in Atlanta. A report from the ATL on how they get it done. It's coming up next on Game Day Preview.
For the paycheck, step out on the field and hear the crowd roar. Let's go! 'Cause it's in my blood. I'm in this for the love.
He's a beast with a capital B. Firing for Addison. Oh, he caught it! Are you kidding me?
How good is this guy?
Big Rick. Argument too.
Told you all about Joe Burrow against the Steelers. How about Russ? Can this dude get cooking again? 6 touchdown passes, 1 interception, week 7 through 10. Just 1 passing touchdown and a pick in the last 2 weeks. A tough task against a offense that certainly can fly in the Cincinnati Bengals. With that, we welcome you to Game Day Preview. It is presented by NFL Primetime Fantasy. Mike Yam, Cynthia Phelan, the queen of the numbers. By the way, Steve Weich is in Cincinnati. He's usually hanging out.
He's freezing in Cincinnati. We
He
saw
is.
it. Looks a little chilly there.
Happy Thanksgiving weekend.
Yes.
We're coming to a close here. And I know it probably felt like some of those games were the main course. We got some spectacular matchups today, though.
I mean, no leftovers here. We got good ones all weekend long. We got a great deal on Friday. Everything was good. It's a great weekend.
Yes,
great week. Thanksgiving's the best holiday.
It is absolutely tremendous. Not to mention we had plenty of action on Black Friday as well. I asked Cynthia how her Christmas shopping was going so far. Yeah, not well is the point.
I need help.
She would rather focus in on football, which we will do for the next hour. And who's going to be playing and who's going to be on the outside looking in for some of these matchups. Your early actives and inactives. And Trevor Lawrence active. More context around that in just a moment with Ian Rappaport. Meanwhile, how about Breece Hall? That will be a nice little boost to a Jets team that could need it, that needs it in the worst way. And Alec Pierce, also good to see him active with that foot injury. For a little bit more context on some of the notable names, Ian Rappaport, NFL Network Insider, is joining us right now. All right, Ian, we'll get to Trevor Lawrence in just a moment here because my head is thinking about Brock Purdy and this Niners team as they're trying to make a postseason run. Brock couldn't play last week. They suffered a loss against the Packers. What can I expect today against the Bills?
Expect Brock Purdy to be back on the field for the San Francisco 49ers. That is the good news. That is a good sign. Sounded like a week at practice was pretty good. Didn't do very much earlier in the week. I would say kind of stayed away from throwing, wanted to rest his arm as much as possible after that kind of check-in, check-up on Monday, but was a full participant on Friday. He's dealing with a shoulder strain, something that kind of made it uncomfortable, made it tough to warm up, and really zapped a little bit of velocity from Brock Purdy. It does seem like that is back, so he is going to play. How much is he going to throw it in the weather is a whole different issue. The snow is coming down. It is coming down hard in Buffalo. Will we even be able to see whichever team is wearing the white jersey? There's a lot of questions here, but at least you'll know that Brock Purdy will be out on the field for the 49ers.
Ian, you're a Northeast guy. I'm from the Northeast originally. You say snow, and it is December 1st. I'm getting a little PTSD worrying about what it was like for me to sort of shovel a lot of those driveways. SoCal living, not all that bad. Meanwhile, we got a Jags team that also has been struggling, like the Niners. Not as bad as, obviously, San Francisco. But Trevor Lawrence, we showed the inactives and the actives. He is active, but how effective can he be?
Yeah, Trevor Lawrence is active, is going to start for the Jacksonville Jaguars, and has been adamant the last couple days that he goes. He is not 100%. This is a significant injury that he's dealing with. It is a AC joint sprain in his left shoulder, one so significant that he may actually still need surgery on it. Could need surgery after the season. Could, if it does not go well, need surgery during the season. It is painful. It has kind of taken something away from him throwing the ball. He's not going to be 100%, but Mac Jones has started the last couple. 2 Jaguars losses. It's a team that wants a win, needs a win. So, yes, they are expected to have Trevor Lawrence out on the field, you just don't know how his left shoulder is going to react if he gets hit.
Yeah, not to mention they're matching up against a team that also could use a win. The Houston Texans feels like this season is getting a little out of control and spiraling the wrong way. Ian, always great to have you on with us, and we go from one insider to another in a heavyweight battle. Yes, it is the Baltimore Ravens hosting the Eagles. Mike Garafolo has more from Baltimore.
You like running the ball? This is the game for you here at M&T Bank Stadium. Saquon Barkley, Derrick Henry, and these two dynamic offenses going up against each other. When you talk to both teams, you hear the defensive emphasis is make sure everybody's in their gap, maintain that wall at the line of scrimmage, because if you leave one of those gaps open, these guys are going to find it, and they are going to make you pay greatly. Now, there's going to be some key players missing in this game. Talk about that Ravens defense. Kyle Van Noy, one of their co-leading sackers, he is not going to play. He's out with a neck injury, but expected back for their next game after the bye. For the Eagles, wide receiver Devontae Smith listed as questionable. Ian Rappaport and I, though, are reporting he is unlikely to play. They'll see how he feels, potentially work him out pregame, but not expecting him. Darius Slay, the cornerback, also out. So some key players missing. Some other guys got to step up in their place for both of these teams.
Mike, good stuff by you and good context, especially when you think about a Philadelphia team. Slay's had some good moments so far this season. We'll talk more about those Philly DBs coming up in just a minute here. And yet, when I think about the running game, and Mike set it up really nice, we're talking about the two best rushers in the NFL, and Saquon Barkley and Derrick Henry. Give me some context on how this season has gone and how pivotal each one of these guys could be to putting their team over the top.
I mean, when we're talking about both of these players being either the Offensive Player of the Year or the MVP, they're clearly very, very important to each team. When I'm looking at Saquon Barkley, if I were kind of thinking about, it's been 12 years, I think, since the last time it hasn't been a quarterback, it's more likely he'd end up as the Offensive Player of the Year just in general, because we kind of made MVP a quarterback award. But you're looking at now, okay, so what are the differences on these defenses then, right? So you're seeing these two great running backs. Well, the differences really end up being the pass defense. So I'm looking at the Ravens defense, and I'm looking at A.J. Brown, and I'm like, well, you're great against the run. Are you going to be as versatile and dynamic when you're facing A.J. Brown in the pass game? So it's very interesting. It's going to be the run game. I'm not worried. I actually think both of these running backs are sort of defense proof. It's the pass defense where we're going to find the difference.
All right, so give me, when you watch the Ravens defense, and by the way, I actually thought it played pretty well against Justin Herbert the other day. To me, that's a stepping stone against a team that obviously has a tremendous amount of weapons, including AJ, and as Mike Garafolo told us, Devontae Smith not playing, which might actually help them in a meaningful way.
Well, I mean,
the Ravens defense, that is.
Yeah, the Ravens defense, that helps them pretty significantly. But I will say it does make Dallas Goedert's role a lot more impactful, be it through the pass blocking schemes and or through the opportunities to catch the ball himself. So I'm looking at, look, A.J. Brown, the contested catch. Obviously, when I close my eyes and think about A.J. Brown, I think about what he does on contested catches. What I'm seeing so Dean Pease came back. We know that has been one of the differences in the Zach Orr defense this year. And we saw some changes against the Chargers. Now, will I say that the Chargers are a great proxy for the Eagles? I'm not going to go that far yet because, number one, it's a good team, but I'm still thinking this O-line's better. I'm still thinking A.J. Brown's better than any of their wide receivers on the Chargers. No shade to the Chargers, just I believe that this is a much more dynamic team, even without Devontae Smith, than the Chargers.
Yeah, Ravens defense, by the way, allowed 22 passing touchdowns so far this season. That ranks 30th in the NFL. A little more context on this game, not to mention Cynthia's projections around the corner. Time for Road Warriors, presented by Courtyard Marriott. All right, the Niners. We heard Ian. He told us Brock Purdy's going out there. Clock is ticking. This is, I feel like I've said this like 3 consecutive weeks about this Niners squad. This is a must-win game. How do they get it done?
They stopped the run game. I mean, ultimately, the dynamic rushing ability of both Josh Allen and James Cook. If you look at what they're doing, they throw extra offensive linemen when they need it. They use a fullback. Your girl loves a fullback. But ultimately, it's the dynamic rushing threat on any play between both Josh Allen and James Cook that's going to be a focal point for San Francisco defense that's not the same defense that we're used to. This is not the team where, Fred Warner's still amazing. We'll put that little caveat there. But you need more pieces to be able to stop all of the different ways that this offensive line and this rushing attack comes at you.
You know what's fascinating to me is you watch San Francisco so far this season, and you and I were talking before the show, it feels like when they get into that red zone area, there's some struggles. And look, you highlighted what happens defensively, and that's not going to be a good sign against Buffalo because of Josh Allen and Cook, as you made reference to. But if Brock Purdy's not 100%, and he's not, I worry about them finding ways to generate points when they get into the red area.
And Trent Williams.
Yeah.
And then you also have to remember that they're still missing Brandon Ayuk. It's just going to be more difficult for a team where their red zone struggles are well documented. I think I probably went on record a million times to be like, Christian McCaffrey will fix a lot of them. He has yet to do that. Sure. We haven't seen him get into the end zone yet. And in the red area, those 20 yards, that's such a crucial part of the field. They just haven't been reliable. And then when their special teams have also not been reliable, it's just been a very difficult position to put yourself in.
I know I keep calling it a must-win, and when you're sitting at 5 and 6 right now,
it is a must-win.
11th in the NFC, you go, oh my God, this is time to panic. But the NFC West.
Good news for them. They're only one game behind both the Seahawks and the Cardinals. Yes, they do have home losses to them, dreaded home division loss. We get it. But it's still not, all is not lost.
Yeah.
It's just starting to get lost.
Yeah, it's once again spiraling out of control for the Niners.
Vikings swept the shores from the bitterness of the North Sea. Ranging warriors.
An absolute warrior battling his tail off.
Decimating towns and villages, slaughtering anyone and everyone.
We don't take no prisoners, man!
18 became hungry for gold, silver, and land.
Darnold to Jefferson.
No one could stop them. The Vikings will remain in history and never be forgotten.
That's intimidating. So is this dude. And Justin Jefferson, we got the Vikings hosting Arizona. Vikings currently a 5 seed, still in contention for a 1. Tom Pelissero set the scene for us in Minneapolis.
Yeah, it should be a lively environment for this NFC tilt between the Vikings and the Cardinals today. Start with some injury updates. Vikings left tackle Cam Robinson is good to go despite a foot injury that he suffered last week. Minnesota keeping an extra tackle dressed today, though, just in case. As for the Cardinals, their first-round pick, Darius Robinson, who has not played this entire season because of a calf injury, he is active, set to make his NFL debut. Of course, the Cardinals also have another first-round pick, Marvin Harrison Jr., who's been an explosive playmaker for them, but had just 10 catches total in 3 games in November. Well, the calendar's flipped. It's December 1st. Coach Jonathan Gannon told me we are going to get him going today. The passing game will go through Marvin Harrison Jr., and he's going to make an impact on the game. Yam?
Tom, we would imagine that he would have an impact. You're talking about some key players in this game. Per Next Gen Stats, the Vikings a 16% chance of winning the NFC North and a 12% chance of being the 1 seed. It is wild, 9-2. I mean, NFC a little top heavy here. I'm signing me up for it. I'm there. Justin Jefferson, some struggles here in terms of the stats here. Explain to me why I'm not seeing the typical Justin Jefferson effect.
Because you're looking at the stats from the perspective of fantasy, where you're thinking about touchdowns and explicit receptions and a bunch of yards. The difference is he's creating space for everyone else. They're not just single teaming him, they're double teaming him. They're creating fancy coverages, basically for lack of a better term, to make sure that he doesn't have the Justin Jefferson effect on the game. And you know what that's doing? That is making Jordan Addison have 100 and bajillion yards. That's a conservative figure. It's also having an effect on TJ Hawkinson, who had his first over 100-yard game of the season last week as well. So while it might not be great for fantasy players specifically, it's certainly great for the offense as a whole.
Now, earlier this season when the Vikings are rolling, and by the way, there was just a little mini hiccup here, but Brian Flores in this defense, you love up that unit, and you like them when they're dialing up pressure, which is not necessarily a recipe for success when Kyler Murray's out on that football field.
Au contraire. Okay. So if you're looking at Kyler Murray, of course you think, scrambling quarterback. If I blitz him and he beats me, it's not going to be good. But that has actually not been the case with Kyler Murray. His stats against the blitz are actually way worse. So you're talking about Marvin Harrison getting involved. Of course, if I'm Jonathan Gannon, I'd be like, hey, my great player, this prolific wide receiver that's having a great start, of course he's going to get him going. Minnesota has given up some passes for sure. But when you're looking at what the effect of the pressure is, you can give up the yards, you could give up the receptions, but the touchdowns, that is where you're going to have a problem here. So it is a contrarian fact that he is against the blitz has been vulnerable. Yeah, that was a big hit right there.
Yeah, he's taken a couple of them so far this season. He just sort of like bounces back up.
Jonathan Grenard's coming for you.
It's crazy how the type of season that Kyler Murray has had so far this year. And once again, this is a team that certainly would love to get back into the win column as they are in the thick of things in that NFC West division. By the way, we're talking about Marvin Harrison a little bit later. Michael F. Florio, from a fantasy perspective, has got an interesting take on Arizona's wide receiver. We will get to that coming up here on Game Day Preview. But we're just getting started. How about this dude? Oh, John Robinson, 5th in the NFL in scrimmage yards, over 1,100. Can he get it done against one of the best defenses in the NFL and the Chargers? A live report from the ATL around the corner.
We have been waiting to see Joe Burrow back on the field in a game that counts. Got it! Touchdown! Bengals!
Let's go! Margin of error is slim, so we got to make those plays.
Get in! Loses the football.
Urgency is going to be really high every week.
He's going to throw it on the run, and it's broken up. Oh, flag comes in late.
It's as frustrating as I've had.
They say it's a touchdown.
Unreal.
Absolutely amazing.
Couldn't stop him in overtime.
What a wild way to end it tonight.
Heartbreaking losses. So close, yet so far away.
Well, record aside, the Cincinnati offense creates problems for every defense. It's going to be a tough game in the AFC North. We miss Steve Weich in our warm studio. He's got more from Cincinnati.
Well, Mike and Cynthia, first some injury news from here. Bengals linebacker Logan Wilson is out, and for Pittsburgh, their outside linebacker Alex Highsmith also out. But the Steelers, of course, still bring the bang with that defense led by T.J. Watt. But they'll be facing a quarterback in Joe Burrow who loves playing aggressive fronts. He has 8 touchdowns and just 1 interception under immense pressure, and he has the highest quarterback rating against pressure according to Next Gen Stats. So Steelers safety Deshaun Elliott
told me facing Burrow is one of the toughest challenges in the NFL, not only because the quarterback is tied for the lead with 27 touchdown passes, but also he's got T. Higgins and Jamar Chase, who Elliott said is the best receiver in the NFL, especially when he has the ball in his hands.
Steve, we miss you here. Stay warm. Enjoy that game. Cynthia and I will be texting you throughout. Meanwhile, the AFC playoff picture here. Keep in mind the Steelers half-game lead over the Ravens for the division. They obviously won that game a couple weeks ago, but they have not won the AFC North since 2020, which has got me thinking about who's about to eat. It's time for Who's Eating Good, presented by Applebee's. Let's focus in on this game. Steelers and Bengals. Who's that player for you?
Well, it could have been T. Higgins, but I'm picking Jamar Chase. Why? Just so you know, when he's on the field, you know what his parents say? They say, it's Uno time. And I think it will be Uno time again today. When I'm looking at the opportunity for Jamar Chase to get out there and show management, sir, ma'am, I need you to pay me. Why did you not pay me ahead of the season? The price tag just went up. I think he makes that price tag go up yet again. When you're talking about trust, you look at what happened on 4th down against the Chargers. You know what happened? A touchdown, a long one. And it's all about the opportunity for that end zone to not just be something where, hey, like, it's just me, number one, over here, Uno time, but it's also he opens things up for T. Higgins. So I think he eats, but I think T. Higgins eats as well.
Draw 4, skip, reverse, the whole. I miss playing that game. I used to get really
Uno
competitive.
time.
Yeah,
It's very cute.
I do like that. He's not the only
Best
talent.
parents in the league, too.
Seriously.
Oh, by far.
Not the only talented wide receiver in this game, and they do it differently. I don't know if anyone's got bigger paws in the game than George Pickens, who I got to imagine is sort of due for another big game.
If you watched so if you go into NFL Pro Plus, you have the film room. Go watch George Pickens after every single play, whether or not he's the subject of our target. He is pounding his big paws on the ground. He's doing crazy things. He is so full of energy. Yeah. I need that man mic'd up every single week. I think this would be a good week to see it. We have seen some vulnerabilities to this Bengals defense. Steve just told us no Logan Wilson. That's a big problem. Yeah. Maybe get some Pat Freiermuth time there as well. You know, I think when I'm watching this, it's all about there's just no one that matches up against that body type.
Yeah.
There's no one that they have. This is not the strongest Bengals defense we've seen in quite some time, and this is a mismatch for them for sure, especially on those deep passes.
And not to beat a dead horse here, but since Russell Wilson took over, this is a guy I mean, it's wild to see the Pickens
just
production.
Watch him though.
Yeah.
He's like pounding his hands on the floor. I need to know what this man is saying.
I'm also with you on the. That's my thing. I'm with you on the mic'd up because he has been various times, and we've been able to.
I'd like him to narrate my life. That laundry, you're doing such a good job. It's great.
Pickens does not disappoint when he's out on the football field.
We welcome you to the Falcons and Chargers here this afternoon. And we are underway.
He's going to launch, and Mooney hangs on. Deshaun Robinson, touchdown Atlanta.
Touchdown Chargers. Glad McConkey, double, baby.
Hey, you like that? You like that?
Oh, I love that. Chargers trying to bounce back off that Monday night loss to the Ravens to get a road trip to the ATL. There's Justin Herbert. Our Bridget Condon's got more on this Falcons team that just wants to get back to winning.
For the first time in his career, Kirk Cousins is coming off consecutive starts where he did not throw a single touchdown pass. Wide receiver for the Falcons, Drake London, told me Cousins has been extra focused this week at practice, saying he's the kind of guy that holds everybody accountable. And if you're not crossing your T's and dotting your I's, you're going to miss something. Today, the Falcons offense faces a Chargers defense that leads the league in scoring defense, but they've given up about 30 points the past 2 games, despite only giving up about 13 a game through the first 10 weeks of the season. London acknowledges the recent struggles of the Chargers defense and says the plan is to jump on them early and not let their foot off the gas as they look for their first win in almost a month.
All right, Bridget. So based off of what Bridget's reporting, not to mention what we're seeing from this Chargers defense, I know the Ravens' run game is a different beast here. Is there an opening for Atlanta, specifically for Robinson, as he comes out of that backfield?
Absolutely. I mean, Bijan Robinson's really taken a huge step forward this season. Yeah. We've seen a lot of things, obviously different regimes, so you're going to see different principles and where they run and how they do it. What I'm seeing from Bijan that's so special is basically how he's been able to adapt to defenses and read them a lot better in his second season. So it's netted in more yards after contact, more yards before contact that aren't his, so not yards before contact attributed to him and where he's running, not necessarily his O-line. So that is where he's really special. And of course, there's always the pass catching threat for him as well. So we've seen Kirk Cousins operate from the pocket. This could be a good spot where, Bijan could be the big difference maker against a Chargers defense.
And this offense has to find another gear. In the wins, they're dominant on that side of the ball and anemic in the losses. And the Chargers defense has obviously been one of the best in the NFL from keeping opponents getting into the end zone. Justin Herbert, though, I also think about what he can do in this game to thrive. Super efficient. And to be honest with you, Falcons defense hasn't necessarily scared a lot of opposing quarterbacks.
Certainly not in pressure, because the Falcons, when it comes to even sacking quarterbacks, they're last. This is not a team that is coming ferociously after a quarterback. And Justin Herbert, this is going to sound very unsexy, but he's been getting it done the unsexy way. He's been so reliable. It's all about not turning the ball over. It's all about being able to connect with your receiver and earn your first down. So as much as I'd like to say, this defense could really, they're refreshed after their bye, I don't know. They haven't shown me that they can consistently bring pressure in any way, shape, or form. And Justin Herbert has proven week in and week out that he is the consistent choice. He's getting better every week. And you keep seeing these rushes. Justin Herbert using his legs, I think that is a really interesting wrinkle and fold that I don't think the Falcons have a very good way to defend. It's matchups make for fights. It's not a good matchup for the Falcons.
No. And by the way, it would be a good win for the Chargers. They only have one win so far this season against a team with a winning record.
77% they get into the playoffs if they win. They're basically already in. There's over 60% now, but 77!
Yeah, and a dangerous team once the postseason comes around. By the way, Cynthia's projections coming up in just a bit here on Game Day Preview. Meanwhile, I start thinking about some of the young bucks. Time for Rookie Watch, presented by New Era. We spent a couple weeks earlier this season loving up Jaden Daniels, and rightfully so.
Yeah.
It felt like a stranglehold that he had on Offensive Rookie of the Year honors. I know he's banged up. I know this team is losing. It feels like the grip is slowly loosening up.
To be fair, now you're hearing things. Cliff Kingsbury's now being considered for some Bears jobs. That is what we've been reporting from our insiders. Point being is I still think it's most likely Jaden Daniels secures it. However, I want to point out right now, Bo Nix still has plus odds to be your Offensive Rookie of the Year, which feels smart. It's Black Friday. It's a deal. You get discounts. Are you picking up what I'm putting down?
Yeah.
Because Bo Nix, right now, he has 5 games with 2 or more passing touchdowns and 0 interceptions. This could be his 6th this week on Monday. So I think if I'm looking at, the discounts could be available, limited time only, could be over on Monday, that situation. But I certainly think he is absolutely in consideration for that, especially considering it's very likely that the Broncos will make the postseason. So I don't know if we were really expecting that, considering Vegas had them as number 4 in their division ahead of the season.
Cynthia, not for nothing, I asked you about your holiday shopping before the show. You said not great. And based off of some of your analogies here, I'm understanding why. You're worried about Black Friday deals being in the rearview mirror. It's all good. First of all, it's not just one day anymore. And we have Cyber Monday. So look, those deals are still coming here.
I hate shopping. I hate shopping. I hate it.
Just get it done online. But I'm with you on the Bo Nix situation, because he has been very impressive these last couple weeks. And I don't know how many people would have thought that would have been the case heading into
Sean Payton did.
Yeah, he did. He was loving them up. Kirk Cousins, no passing touchdowns, 2 picks over his last 2 games. Can he get it done today? We got those game picks around the corner.
be the best, bro. I don't want to be the best. I just want to be better than everyone that ever lived.
Welcome to Week 8 at SoFi Stadium for Thursday Night Football.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, it's a bad day for y'all. You can't block me. You can't block me. Boy, I was about to kill you. Oh, I'm moving you. I'm moving you, baby. Y'all learned it takes a double team. Yes, sir. What's wrong with y'all? Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm in your hand. I'm in his hand. Y'all nervous, boy?
On platform, knocked off his spot. He's going down. Jared Verse has the sack. He's got the highest pressure rate in the NFL. Look out if he starts cashing in.
Let's go. What I'm telling you? Hey, they realize what it takes. It takes a double team. It takes an army. I'm glad they realize. Now I can do better. Now I can get better finally. You know, I mean, double team. I love it.
All right, it's not like you were disappointed that we didn't have George Pickens mic'd up a little bit earlier, but we delivered with Jared Verse.
Jared Verse is funny. It is also never lost on me that I would have to probably psych myself up if I were, if Aaron Donald left and I came in, I'd have to be like, I just want to be the best that ever lived.
Yeah. Why not? By the way,
you're going to have to because you're pretty much trying to exceed the guy who is kind of the best who ever did it.
That defense, by the way, has been stellar. The young bucks inside that defense on multiple levels, because I don't think Kitchens even gets enough credit at that safety spot as well. But I also think about what the Rams, sort of the identity of this team, really centers around their offense. And for as much love as Matthew Stafford gets, Kyren Williams and what he brings to the table, the real difference maker, at least in my mind, to this team.
I mean, it's very frustrating as a fantasy owner when he doesn't score, because then people think like, oh, he's not good or whatever. But that is not the case. Kyren Williams brings such an edge to this team. I understand sometimes there's been some fumbles. I'm not like pretending that none of the bad things have happened, but he comes back and makes up for them 2, 3, 4-fold. And especially in a season where the O-line has not been a strength. It's been so banged up. We've had different O-line combinations, different O-line starters. He's been such a force for Matthew Stafford that's been super helpful and this entire offense. So I got to give a little bit more love to him because I think he gets back in the end zone this week.
2 talented running backs in this game, not only Williams, but on the flip side, one of the most versatile running backs that we have in the NFL, in Alvin Kamara, who's kind of got the fountain of youth on his side right now.
I mean, yeah, and the interesting part about Alvin Kamara, he hasn't scored a touchdown in 5 games. What? Yeah. That sounds bananas. I mean, Taysom Hill's doing some crazy, like what position does that man play? Runner, tight, whatever. Anyways, but Alvin Kamara's opportunity in this game to get into the end zone is greater than he has seen in a few weeks. So I'm looking at the potential for him to break tackles. It's going to be hard to get past that front. However, this is a guy who lines up everywhere and does a lot of different things. They have 2 Swiss Army knives. We need a better thing than that because Swiss Army knives are cool, but like we've got like iPhones now. You know, we can do more stuff than that. He's an iPhone.
Yeah, he literally can do, it seems like, everything out on that football field. By the way, a projection on this game, Cynthia's projections on who wins, coming up here on Game Day Preview. I don't know, welcome back to former squad kind of vibes here. Geno Smith matching up against the Jets. I'm going to say mostly up for Geno this season. He's had some moments where I think he's even cringed on the football field with some costly turnovers, but it's always nice when you could stick it to your old squad.
Stick it to your old squad who, I mean, it's not like they've got, it's a little, vibes are not high there. But ultimately, I'm looking at Geno Smith's opportunity to really exploit a pass defense that we've seen not be the pass defense that we expected them to be. Specifically, I know C.J. Mosley isn't playing in this one either. So you're in a spot where you've got that guy, number 14, and even if you match him up against Sauce Gardner, we haven't seen Sauce Gardner be the kind of guy that we've expected him to be. So I'm looking at the Geno Smith leading the league, passing yards per game. That is just something that in this game, again, matchups making for fights, not a great matchup.
All right, time for Who Scores. It is presented by DraftKings Sportsbook. Also good to see Breece Hall healthy for whatever that's worth for you. DK Metcalf averaging over 77 yards receiving per game so far this
season. Look at those
season.
odds. 50 receiving yards. You're going to have to pay up hard for it. It's not, it means it's a heavy favorite.
Yeah, which we'll find out if that's going to be the case, if he's able to find his way into the end zone. But you tell me, Cynthia, who do you like to score?
I mean, I've probably brought up DK Metcalf 2 times already, so let's bring him up
Double
a third.
down?
I just think
Triple down?
Triple down here. I think DK Metcalf's opportunity. I think this is the type of game where Geno Smith, we saw how emotionally it got against the Broncos.
Oh, yeah.
Like, that was such an interesting moment. I think this is it has shades of that. Not quite as, dramatic as the one before. But ultimately, I think DK Metcalf's opportunity here is great against that secondary that has not shown up as big as we had expected them to.
Last week on the show, you were telling me about JSN. I think he was a start for you in our fantasy segment, which, by the way, is around the corner.
Yep.
And has been playing some really good football as of late. Thinking also about the Texans and Jags. A little bit earlier in the show, Ian Rappaport told us that we can expect to see Trevor Lawrence out on the football field. We know Nico is healthy and back out there. You like him to get into the end zone.
Well, you remember where Nico played college football, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, University of Michigan. And I work with Rich Eisen, and he probably brought up conservatively 500 times this morning that Michigan beat Ohio State. Also something that I like as a person who lived in the state of Michigan, grew up in the state of Michigan. But Nico Collins against the Jaguars defense that has been anemic, to say the least, in the passing phase of the defense. I just think this is a great opportunity. We've been questioning a lot of what's going on with C.J. Stroud, why all the penalties, what's going on with this O-line. This is an opportunity to get back on track with a guy. If you look at their quarterback wide receiver duo rating, it is like top 3 in the league, and he's even missed a bunch of games. So it's really great.
To be fair, I fell into the Eisen trap this morning. We were both in the locker room.
Yep.
Saw him, and of course I think about Michigan when I see him, and I made a comment, and yeah, he was excited about it.
Yeah.
They weren't supposed to win that one.
Let's just say for us who work with it, it is much better on when Michigan wins. Much better.
Fair point. DraftKings Sportsbook, the #1 place to bet touchdowns this season, and this week new customers can bet $5 and pocket $150 in bonus bets.
How much is that?
$5 and pocket $150 in bonus bets if you win that first one. Download the app and use the promo code GAME when you sign up. DraftKings Sportsbook, the crown is yours. As Cynthia told us a little bit earlier, don't worry about the stats for Justin Jefferson having a huge impact on the Vikings. Do they win today? Cynthia's projection as they match up against the Cardinals. That's still to come. Not to mention, we got some fantasy talk. Arizona Cardinals on the road in Minnesota. Marvin Harrison Jr., 10 catches, 135 yards in his last 3 games combined. A little surprising when you think about some of those numbers and how much of an impact he can have on this team's offense. Time for a little start sit. It is presented by NFL Primetime Fantasy. Oh, it is our guy, Michael F. Florio, who joins us right now. If you're not checking out his column on NFL.com on who to play and who to park on that bench, bad job by you. Michael, always good to have you on with us, man. Want to get to Marvin Harrison coming up in just a bit because I can't wait to hear your take on him. But as we always do, we start with some of the quarterbacks, who's on the bench and who you think is a good start for your lineup. Not a surprise to see Justin Herbert there. Anthony Richardson, that's got to be matchup specific. And you're right, Brock Purdy on the bench. Still banged up. He will be out there. Geno and Kirk Cousins also sits, according to Michael F. Florio. But C.J. Stroud here, this has been a little bit of an up-and-down season. Why do you like him as a start?
Partly because it is the best matchup a quarterback could have. The Jaguars have allowed the most fantasy points per game to quarterbacks, and Stroud has dominated them in his career. Earlier this season, got them for a season-high 345 yards, 24 fantasy points, and he averages 25 per game against them in his career. But even more important than that, he has been under pressure at the 2nd highest rate this season. The Jags generate pressure at the 4th lowest rate. So Stroud actually might get some time in the pocket, might be able to get the ball to Nico Collins like Cynthia was saying earlier in the show. So yeah, if you're not playing C.J. Stroud this week, when are you?
Well, I'm also a believer. Like if we have 4 games already played, so if you still need someone, I know that it's the Browns. Oh no. But the Browns secondary and the Browns' ability to give up passes, especially the types of passes that one Cortland Sutton likes to catch, is not necessarily the same that we're used to from this Browns defense. And also, this is an O-line that has helped keep Bo Nix away from quick pressures, which means, to me, he is fully playable. This is a guy in fantasy. I'm a believer. I'm going to keep saying that because it's a pretty fun way to do it. But Bo, are you a believer?
I am. I hadn't heard that one before.
You haven't?
No.
Oh, so it's good. I'm glad I could introduce you to it. It's not mine. I can't take credit for it.
No, but I heard you say it, so I'm always going to give you credit for it. And unless it was Michael F. Florio who came up with it, and then Michael, bad job by me not giving you some love on that. Let's get to the running backs here. Chase Brown, a start. Tony Pollard, who actually balled out last time out for the Titans, also a start on the road against Washington. You see some of the sits that are there. But, Mike, why do you like Bucky Irving?
Because he excels at scoring fantasy points. 15 or more in 5 of his last 6 games. He is seeing a lot of involvement as a pass catcher for Baker Mayfield here, and he already has a heavy share of the groundwork, gets work near the goal line. And then, best matchup a running back could have. The Panthers have allowed the 2nd most rushing yards, most touchdowns, and most fantasy points to running backs. And what I love, the Bucs are a little bit like the Lions in the sense of even if they had a big lead, they don't necessarily take the foot off the gas. So even if this one turns out to be a little lopsided, I think Bucky Irving should give you plenty of production this week.
Well, I saw that you had 2 sits for the Jags running backs, but I don't want you to forget to start the running back on the other side of this matchup. Everything what I'm going to do is rhyming today. So I picked Joe, now Bo, now I'm going with Joe. I think Joe Mixon also has a really good opportunity against the Jags. If I'm looking at and I'm thinking about this strategy that this Texans offense needs to employ, stop committing turnovers. Because then Joe Mixon, that's an opportunity where you're not in like 1st and 20, right? Let's give him 1st and 10. How about 2nd and 6? Hey, who knows? 3rd and short, let's go for it. But ultimately, Joe Mixon is kind of the same way, like he's a proxy for how this offense goes. And I think against the Jags, he's going to have a monster game.
Weird to see some of these interceptions by C.J. Stroud. I know we touched on him a little bit earlier, but I couldn't agree more with your assessment, Cynthia, regarding Joe Mixon. Meanwhile, we got some wide receivers for you. JSN, we talked about him a couple minutes ago. Mike's got him as a start. I'm looking at that sitcom, and I know what Marvin Harrison can be. Give me some context here, Mike. Why not put him in your starting lineup?
I think I'm going against the grain a little bit here because on paper, this seems like a great matchup as the Vikings allow a lot of yards to wide receivers, but this feels like a trap to me because the Vikings play split safety coverage at by far the highest rate in the NFL, and Kyler Murray is 27th in passer rating against that coverage. Marvin Harrison Jr. has just a 52% catch rate against them. Passer rating when targeted is pretty low as well. Plus, Marv has struggled with fewer than 8 fantasy points in 5 of his last 7 games. So while this, on your fantasy app, it's going to be green, it's going to say it's a good matchup, this feels a little bit more trappy to me because they struggle against the defense that the Vikings employ the most.
I actually completely agree. I think in daily you could even play the Vikings defense. That's how strongly I feel about this.
Okay.
I also want to talk about, I told you I liked Bo, so I want to also double down there and say I like Cortland Sutton too. Cortland Sutton, I mean, if you look at their quarterback to wide receiver duo rate, it is extremely high as well. Passer rating, yards, touchdowns, all of the things that you would need. I'm also looking at the opportunity here on Monday night, right? You know who knows like how to put on a good show? Sean Payton. Sean Payton's going to put a good show on tomorrow and this week outright. Show us what you got in that red zone. Show us that your rookie is worth considering for being the O'Roy. I think that that is going to be a really nice pairing between Bo Nix and his #1 wide receiver.
I like those two guys, simpatico, the numbers bear it out. Mike, always good to have you on the show with us, and no matter what anyone says about your shoe collection, no one's got a better
Your
collection
shoes
of
are
Jordans.
great. I saw that and I was like, you tell that person to kick rocks.
Seriously, if you're not
with their
following-
ugly shoes.
if you're not
With
following
no
them-
shoes.
Yeah,
Yes. Exactly. The Jordans, though, they are legit.
They're great.
Our lockers,
Thank you,
very
Ben.
close. There's some jealousy with that is there. Meanwhile, Sam Darnold, a career high already with 9 wins, 21 passing touchdowns, and a 101.7 passer rating. Can he add to the totals today? We'll find out.
This game real simple, bro. It's all will versus that will. Show me something tonight.
Everybody know that I'm a pro.
Uh-oh. Touchdown! Oh, my goodness. Bro, he turned around. Give us to Henry.
Here he goes, rocketing down the sideline.
Touchdown for the King! Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry have been unstoppable. Push, if you please. He's in! Touchdown! Leaping Jalen Hurts.
Great play.
No!
Everybody know that I'm a pro.
You know, we usually wrap up the show with Sunday statements. I'm going to give you an earlier one. The matchup between the Eagles and the Ravens will be the best regular season game of the year.
It could be a Super Bowl preview, so I'm with you.
God, I cannot wait for this game. But take me through this here, because I do think about some of the things that Philadelphia has done on the defensive side, and we saw some strides. I think this offseason, especially in the draft, they tried to address some of the issues in that secondary. Take me through the defensive game plan against a guy like Lamar Jackson.
Well, one of the things that Lamar Jackson has been exceptional, I mean, there's a lot of things that Lamar has been exceptional at doing, but one that really stands out is how good he's been passing in the pocket. In fact, this is his best season ever, and he's had some other MVPs before, two of them, in fact. So this is his best season passing from the pocket, and that's even more impressive when you consider that 3 of their 5 offensive linemen are all different. So hats off to Lamar and this entire offensive staff for figuring out some new wrinkles and folds to add to someone who's already exceptional's game. But that's going to be an area where those defensive backs are really going to have to adapt. Zay Flowers doesn't run traditional routes. He's not like this route runner that's super pristine and precise. So the defensive backs, they're going to have to make a lot of different adjustments. Good news, Quinyon Mitchell, who could be the defensive rookie of the year, that could be a cool matchup to see a couple of times.
Okay, on the flip side, I know the Ravens defense last year was as good as it gets. I mean, historic type numbers. There's some questions about what they can do in the passing game, but more importantly, how do you keep a guy like Saquon, who could be the offensive player, he's in the MVP conversation.
Yeah.
How do you keep him in check?
Well, the Ravens defense and the run, they're going to be able to. So I'm worried about a little Roquan Smith. I want to see exactly where he is. So that's where you're hearing the hesitation in my voice. But one of the principles that they've really, really hammered down this year is being able to stop the run from any direction. Like, you try to find like weaknesses in their run game. I'll wait. Oh, okay, you can't. But ultimately, sometimes they're sacrificing some of the opportunities in the pass catching game to be very stout against the run. So they'll have to make some business decisions to make sure that they're getting the right numbers in the box at specific times, because you don't necessarily want to give this team with both, Jalen and Saquon, who can both be a threat on the ground in any play. Do you want to give them a light box? Probably not, but strategically sometimes, yes.
Cannot wait to see how this thing plays out, because I'm already thinking Tuesday's edition of Power Rankings here on the NFL channel, because I think no matter who wins this game, they can flex in such a
also way. Are they really going to change that much? Like the power rate, okay,
no, not at the top here.
I kind of hate when that happens. We're lucky to get teams 1 and 3 or whatever to be able to play each other. That's pretty lucky.
It is, and one of those teams that's also in that conversation, the Buffalo Bills. I was just telling you, I was spending some time yesterday because we're doing some college football stuff in the Bay Area. I'm like, oh, it's cold in San Francisco. I'll tell you what, it ain't that cold. I mean, are you kidding me already? December 1st with all this snow?
Do you know what I love so much about the people in Buffalo? How they get out there and shovel. The fans will come shovel. Do you think LA fans would ever shovel if we ever? No, LA fans would not. I love it. But I'm looking at what happens in this game, and by the way, this game isn't played till the night, so I do think they'll have most of it cleared. I don't think we're going to see that full blizzard again like we saw on the Thursday night or before. Still going to be cold, though. I still want to say, we got to give a little love to George Kittle. I feel like we've been saying a lot of, we don't know what to say about the Niners. Well, you know what I do know is that George Kittle's a problem, especially when he lines up as an inline receiver. This is, this year, the straw that stirs the drink. Usually we say that about Christian McCaffrey. And look at what he's done in terms of getting into the end zone, blocking, all the different things he's been asked to do. It's the best left tackle in football playing? No? Okay, I'm still going to catch a touchdown, no problem. But I don't necessarily think he's getting enough love. It's hard at this tight end position, right? It's not a great matchup with Matt Milano coming back as well, but we still need to give him his love. Even in the snow, he's going to shine.
He, by the way, might be the best tight end in the NFL. Maybe we talk about him a little bit more if San Francisco wasn't struggling with a 5-6 record.
We all kind of take him for granted. Oh, George Kittle's awesome, but let's give him a little, he actually is awesomer this year than before even.
There is another tight end that I think deserves a lot of attention. I've been saying this almost every single week playing for the Arizona Cardinals as they match up against the Vikings. Trey McBride makes spectacular plays out on the field.
Last week he had a massive game against the Cardinals, against the Seahawks. I feel like he's another one we're just like, yeah, he's really good. Don't worry about him. What? No, we need to celebrate what this guy's doing. And this is a really big reason why, if I'm looking at areas to exploit the Vikings defense, I am actually completely with Florio about the types of coverages that the secondary plays not being the best for Marvin Harrison Jr. What I'm worried about, if I'm a Vikings fan, is how they're going to stop Trey McBride.
Yeah.
That is the one where I think he's just so dynamic. You know, this whole, like, Brock Bowers gets all this credit on Black Friday. Well, this is the same. He's got a very similar game. So I'm very curious to see how that Vikings defense will look to defend McBride.
Yeah, there's a lot of good games today. I know all of us are going to be stuck in front of our televisions, enjoying every single minute of it. Meanwhile, Cynthia, some of your projections here, I'm going to focus in on Pitt and Cincinnati because you like the Steelers to sink the Bengals.
That's so mean. That's you
I know.
putting it so meanly. I like the Steelers to win and solidify their 21st season in a row of a not losing season. How about that? Let's go positive.
Okay.
That ties the Cowboys with the longest record in NFL history. Congratulations to Coach Tomlin. I don't know. To me, I think the wrong team is favored in this one, even though the game is being played in Cincinnati.
Yeah, and Steve White hopefully staying warm. He gave us his report a little bit earlier.
Yeah.
We got more on this Bengals squad in just a moment here. Meanwhile, San Francisco, Buffalo, just because we showed the snow, I'm going to double down on this because we got two awesome games, right? Eagles and Ravens. You like Baltimore, San Francisco, and Buffalo. You like the home teams.
I do like the home teams in both, but look at that 1-point margin. No Devontae Smith really made a big difference because that is where the advantage lies.
As Mike Garafolo told us at the top of the show, with regards to Smith, he will try to get out there in pregame warmups, but not
if
optimistic.
I'm a fantasy player,
you're not playing.
Fantasy, don't bank on it.
Yeah, and as Mike made reference to, not optimistic that he will be able to give it a go, which is why Cynthia's got the home team picking up a win in the Ravens. All right, Sunday statement time. What do you got?
Joe Mixon.
Yes.
I'm going back to the Joe Mixon well. Not only will he score once, that's for amateurs, he's going to get into the end zone twice. I think this is a big get-right situation for the Texans. I don't think they let their foot off the gas. I know we saw Trevor Lawrence is playing. That's very good. Good for him. I'm very happy for him. However, that just means probably more scoring will take place in this entire game.
All right, I'm going to roll. I can't believe I'm doing this. I'm going to go with the Cincinnati Bengals
Let's
here.
go.
Because this is a Cincy squad that hasn't played a complete game all season long. I can tell you they're 7-1 over the last couple of years coming off of a bye. I think they get it done in a divisional game. Joe Burrow, I mean, look at some of these numbers in the last 3 games. 12 touchdowns, 1 interception, and a defense that's been much maligned. How about holding the Steelers to under 20 points? That's where I'm going to go on this one.
What on earth is going on?
I have no idea.
Is this person okay?
What is going on?
Looks like
in Atlanta?
Spider-Man dangling. I don't know.
As Kirk Cousins would say. How do you like it? Game
I
7
don't.
starts now.
I don't.